This happened almost 20 years ago, but it still comes back in pieces. Usually when a house is too quiet and I can hear my own breathing. I was 15. My parents were in the middle of a divorce so ugly the air in our home felt sharp. Nobody spoke directly. Everything was slammed doors and careful silence. To give me space, my mom sent me to stay with my great Aunt Lucy in upstate Vermont. I didn't get a vote. Aunt Lucy lived alone in a massive Victorian house that had been converted into apartments decades earlier. She owned the entire building. The upper floors were rented to tenants. She lived alone on the first floor. The house was beautiful in an old, heavy way. High ceilings, hardwood floors, carved doorways. The kind of place that looks expensive, but feels tired, like it's been listening to people for a long time. The first thing I noticed wasn't the size of the house. It was what Aunt Lucy avoided. She had a large master bedroom, but she didn't sleep there. She slept on a narrow daybed in a small den. The master bedroom door stayed shut. Always. When I asked about it, she said it got too much morning light. When I asked if I could sleep there instead, she didn't answer. She just stared at me. And the look wasn't protective, it was a warning. The first few nights were quiet. Then the footsteps started. Every night after midnight, someone walked on the floor above us. Not random footsteps, pacing, front to back to front, the same route over and over. They weren't rushed. They weren't distracted. They were deliberate. And the strangest part, old houses creak. These footsteps didn't. I mentioned it at breakfast. Your upstairs neighbor doesn't sleep much. Aunt Lucy didn't look up. The second floor has been vacant for over a month. I laughed. She didn't. When I told her I heard the footsteps every night, she said calmly, "It's the house settling." Houses don't settle in straight lines, and they don't do it the same way every night. She showed me the apartment. It was empty. No furniture, no bedding. But the floor told a different story. Fresh scuff marks, a straight path from front to back, the same path the footsteps followed every night. The dust around them was untouched. Recent. She said, previous tenants. She wouldn't meet my eyes, and she locked the door like it was final. On the stairs down, I noticed scratches around the lock, like keys missing the hole, like someone fumbling in the dark. Back downstairs, Aunt Lucy washed her hands for a long time, scrubbing, like she didn't want to bring the upstairs back with her. That night, she insisted we watch a movie, something loud, explosions, shouting. Halfway through, the footsteps started upstairs. She didn't look at me. She turned the volume higher and higher. That's when I realized she wasn't hearing them for the first time. She was enduring them. The next morning, I called my mom. I told her everything. There was a pause, then she said quietly, "Don't bring it up with Aunt Lucy again." She called it a sensitive topic. Adults don't say that unless there's already a rule. A few nights later, I woke up around 2. The house felt colder, heavier. On my way back to my room, I saw the door to the upstairs staircase. Open, just a crack. I remembered the click. Then I saw a light upstairs, a narrow beam, a flashlight, moving slowly across the wall. Careful, like it didn't want to spill under a door. I went back to my room. I pushed my dresser slightly toward the door, just enough to make noise. The footsteps upstairs continued, then they stopped, mid-pattern, and in that silence, I heard one step. Not upstairs, on the stairs. One step, slow, careful, then nothing, like it was listening. After a long moment, the pacing started upstairs again, exactly where it left off, like something rewound itself. I didn't sleep after that. When I asked Aunt Lucy why we couldn't talk about it, she said, "Some things in old houses aren't for children." Then softer. "And they don't like being noticed." When I asked who didn't, she said one word, "Don't." When I left, Aunt Lucy hugged me too tightly. She whispered, "Don't tell stories about this house." As we walked to the car, a curtain shifted upstairs. Not wind, controlled. Then I heard it, one single step, like a goodbye. Years later, I learned the truth. Someone died in that second-floor apartment. Tenants never stayed long. They always left quietly. And more than one asked the same question about footsteps. Aunt Lucy always gave the same answer. It's the house settling, because saying anything else meant admitting she heard it too. Everyone heard the footsteps. They just weren't supposed to talk about them. Because once something knows you can hear it, it doesn't have to stay upstairs. It can start testing the stairs, one step at a time, quiet, patient, learning the distance, and waiting to see who breaks first. I wasn't lost in the forest. Something else was. I've hiked these trails for years, and that matters. Because what happened that night wasn't because I was careless. I knew exactly where I was. I live near a large stretch of protected forest land. In daylight, it looks harmless. Trail signs, benches, families walking dogs. But at night, it turns into something else. Sound travels wrong, distance lies, and the forest stops feeling like a place meant for people. About an hour in, fog rolled through the trees. The air went heavy, still, no breeze at all. I turned my flashlight on, but it flattened everything. So I turned it off. That's when I noticed the first smell. Perfume. Clean. Human. Expensive. And there was no wind. 10 minutes later, I smelled smoke. Campfire smoke. For a second, it made me feel better. Then it vanished. Then the third smell hit. Earthy, herbal, sharp. Smells don't move like that unless someone is moving with you. That's when I saw the light, high on the ridge to my left. A flashlight. It clicked on, swept the trees, then off. That ridge isn't accessible. No trail, no path, and the light kept appearing, further and further along. I turned my music off. Instantly, I heard whistling. Low, casual, the same short tune, repeated. If I could hear it, they could hear my music earlier. They'd known where I was long before I noticed them. At the overlook, something was waiting on the stone. A fresh cairn, carefully stacked rocks. I turned around, and I heard footsteps, running from the direction I needed to go. Then they stopped. So close I felt it in my chest. I couldn't see anything, but I knew I wasn't alone. No breathing, no retreat, just controlled silence. Like something standing perfectly still, watching to see what I'd do. Something crashed behind me, loud, close. I ran. Footsteps kept pace. It didn't rush. It stayed just close enough to keep pressure on me. Whenever I slowed, it slowed. Whenever I stumbled, it stopped. Like it wanted me alert, aware, terrified. I reached my car, slammed the door, locked it, and the forest went silent instantly. The next morning, mud was smeared along my driver's side door, dragged, and when I opened the car, I smelled that same herbal scent, inside. In daylight, the ridge had no footprints, but at the trail entrance, there was a new stone stack. Fresh, balanced carefully, like a marker. Sometimes late at night, when I open my car door, I still smell it. Just for a second, only when I'm alone, and every time I think the same thing. It didn't chase me out of the forest, it let me go. I'm not going to dress this up, because the scariest part of what happened to my family isn't the mystery, it's how long it went on, without anyone stopping it. One night, a car stopped outside our house and stayed there until sunrise. No one got out, no lights, nothing. At first, we didn't even know we were being watched. We just lived, and that's what makes it worse. I grew up in a quiet neighborhood outside a mid-sized town in the UK. Not rich, not rough, just normal. The kind of street where people park in the same place every night, and nothing ever changes. Our house didn't stand out. 2 floors, small front garden, a white door that needed repainting, the kind of place nobody looks at twice, which is why it took so long to notice the pattern. I was 12 when I first realized something in our house was off. Not because I saw anything, because I overheard my parents. I was halfway down the stairs early one morning when I heard them whispering in the kitchen. Not arguing, whispering. That alone stopped me. My dad said, low and flat, "Again, same time." My mom went quiet. Then she replied like she didn't want the walls to hear it. "Maybe it's coincidence." I remember freezing on the step, my heart speeding up for no reason I could explain. When I asked what they were talking about, my mom smiled too quickly and said, "Nothing. Grown-up stuff." But she didn't look at me when she said it. Parents lie like that when they think they're protecting you. They don't realize they're just delaying fear. A few years later, my dad finally told me what that whispering was about. He'd been working late in his home office. That room mattered because it was the only one in the house with a clear view of the street. Around midnight, he noticed a car creeping past, not driving, crawling. It moved so slowly, it looked like the driver wasn't even pressing the accelerator. It reached the end of the road, disappeared, then came back the other way. Same car, same speed. Then it stopped, directly across from our house, and it just stayed there. No engine noise, no door opening, no interior light, no phone glow, nothing. When he checked again later, it was still there. When he woke up just before sunrise, it was still there, because whoever was inside never got out. And when the car finally left, it didn't speed away. It rolled forward slowly, like it knew it could come back whenever it wanted. I was 15 when I saw something myself. My bedroom window faced the street. That night something flashed across my ceiling. At first I thought it was lightning. Then it happened again. A thin beam of light, controlled, moving. I looked out the window and my stomach dropped. There were cars on the street, 2, maybe 3. And someone inside one of them was shining a flashlight, not at the road, at the houses. The beam swept across our neighbors' windows, paused, then moved toward ours. I ducked without thinking. Seconds later, the light slid across my ceiling, and it stopped, just for a second. Like whoever was holding it had found the room they wanted. Like they were checking if someone was awake. After that, my dad installed cameras. Motion lights, door sensors. We changed routines without ever admitting we were changing them. Curtains closed earlier. No standing near windows at night. For months, nothing happened, which somehow felt worse, because it didn't feel like it stopped. It felt like it stepped back, like it was waiting. About a year later, someone finally slipped. A landscaper found something hidden deep in the bushes. A camera, small, clean, deliberately placed. It had no memory card, which meant it wasn't recording. It was streaming, live, to someone close enough to watch in real time. That's when the police were called. They found nothing. Just one sentence from an officer that stayed with my dad. Whoever did this was patient and careful. He said it like a fact, not comfort. That's when my dad realized this wasn't random. Years later, new neighbors moved in. Late at night, I'd see someone standing in their upstairs window, facing our yard, only when our lights were off. Sometimes, if I stared back, their curtain would move, like they'd stepped away. After I moved out, a man came to the house, said he was from the council, left no card, asked one question: "Do your children still come back often?" That wasn't paperwork. That was a check. Even now, my dad still sees cars slow down outside, not stopping, just slowing, like they're checking. For years, they didn't rush. They didn't force entry. They were learning, and then they slipped. Just once. And that's the only reason we ever knew. Because last night, when I visited, I thought I saw headlights slow outside. My dad didn't even look up. He just said curtains. The street was silent. Then the streetlight reflected off something across the road. A curve of glass, like a windshield, like a car sitting there with its lights off, watching. And in that moment, I realized he never stopped watching back. If you'd asked me a few years ago whether someone could quietly watch a family for years without getting caught, I would have laughed. Not because it's impossible, because it sounds like it would take obsession. And in my head, obsession always looks like a stranger in the dark. That's the lie. Because the person who watched us wasn't a stranger. He was the kind of familiar you wave at, the kind you invite inside, and that's why it lasted. I was 22 when I moved back home after college. Fresh degree, no job lined up yet, still sleeping in my childhood room. Our house was a 3-story place in a quiet suburban neighborhood, and there was one detail that matters more than it should. There were only 2 windows in the entire house that faced the street. One was in my bedroom on the 2nd floor. The other was in my dad's home office on the third. If someone wanted to check our house from outside, those were the only two places they could check. Hold on to that. The first clue happened more than 10 years earlier. I was still in middle school. One weekend morning, I heard my parents whispering in the kitchen. My dad said, "Again." Same time. My mom paused, then said, "Maybe it's coincidence." When I asked what they meant, my mom smiled too quickly. "Nothing. Adult stuff." But her hands shook when she set my cereal bowl down. That was the moment they started living with something they refused to name. My dad is a lawyer. When work piles up, he brings it home. That night, he was working late in his office. The third floor, street-facing window, desk lamp on. Around midnight, he saw a Chevy Suburban crawl down our street. Not driving, crawling. So slow it didn't look natural, like the driver was trying not to look like they were looking. It reached the end of the road, disappeared, then came back the other way. Same Suburban, same slow speed. Then it parked directly across from our house. No one got out. No interior light, no phone glow. Just a dark shape perfectly placed to watch those two windows. He checked again later. Still there. He woke up around 5:30. Still there. It left just before sunrise, slowly, like it wasn't worried anyone would remember it. When I was 15, I saw the pattern myself. I stayed up late making music in my room, desk right under that second-floor street-facing window. One night, something flickered outside. I looked out and my stomach dropped. 3 cars moved down the street, spaced out like they weren't together, but drifting with the same intent. And someone inside one of them was shining a flashlight. Not at the road, at the houses, systematic. Neighbors' windows, pause. Next house, pause. Then ours. I ducked. Seconds later, light flooded my ceiling. Close enough to see inside. Close enough to know I was awake. Then they moved on. No rush, no panic. Just finished. After that, cameras went up. Motion lights, door sensors, a doorbell camera. We changed routines without admitting we were doing it. Curtains earlier, lights off earlier, no standing at windows at night. For a while, nothing happened, and I wish that felt like safety. It didn't. It felt like someone adjusted. That's when the neighbor became important. His name was Graham. 2 houses down, middle-aged, clean polo shirts, always helpful in that calm, competent way that makes you feel silly for worrying. When my dad installed cameras, Graham appeared like he'd been waiting. "Oh, I've done security stuff," he said. "Happy to help." He suggested better angles, better mounting points. He suggested a third-floor placement before my dad even mentioned the office window. When I was 15, I saw the pattern myself. I stayed up late making music in my room, desk right under that second-floor street-facing window. One night, something flickered outside. I looked out and my stomach dropped. 3 cars moved down the street, spaced out like they weren't together, but drifting with the same intent. And someone inside one of them was shining a flashlight. Not at the road, at the houses, systematic. Neighbors' windows, pause. Next house, pause. Then ours. I ducked. Seconds later, light flooded my ceiling. Close enough to see inside. Close enough to know I was awake. Then they moved on. No rush, no panic. Just finished. A few weeks later, our doorbell camera started glitching. My dad asked Graham to come over. Graham stood at our kitchen counter with my dad's laptop open, clicking through settings like he owned the place. While he worked, he asked questions that sounded harmless. "What time do you all usually go to bed? Do you leave the office light on most nights? Is that second-floor room your bedroom?" He said it like it was for optimizing sensitivity. My dad answered like it was normal. And I realized something awful. If someone wants your routine, they don't need to hide. They can just ask. And if they've earned trust, you'll tell them. After Graham left, I opened the camera app. A new admin device had been added. A phone name I didn't recognize. Not a brand name, a person's name. When I showed my dad, he shrugged. He probably needed it to set things up. That's when I understood. Familiarity doesn't just open doors, it closes questions. That night, around 1:30 a.m., I stood at my bedroom window. Across the road, partially hidden by a tree, a Suburban sat parked. No headlights, no engine noise. A darker shape in the dark. My brain lined up an old memory like a photograph. Dad at his office window, suburban across the street. Years ago, I stared, trying to convince myself it was just a similar car. Then it rolled forward, not speeding away, not panicking, leaving like it had confirmed something. And as it passed under the street lamp, I saw the driver's face. Half a second, long enough. Bald head, thick eyebrows, that calm, familiar profile. Graham. After that, my whole childhood rearranged itself, so I tested it. For the next week, I changed my routine on purpose. Bedroom light on late, then off early. Office light on, then off. Room to room, no pattern. And every time I changed something, Graham's porch light clicked on, or his silhouette appeared in his upstairs window, or his dog was suddenly in the yard. Always timed to my changes. It felt like watching someone adjust to me in real time, like a person correcting a spreadsheet. We went on a short family trip. Just a tourist city a few hours away. Crowds, museums, people everywhere. We told ourselves, even if we're wrong, we'll feel normal for a few days. On the second day in the hotel lobby, I saw him. Not someone who looked like him. Him. Graham. Standing near the elevators like he belonged there. When our eyes met, he smiled. Not friendly, small, private. Then he said my name. Perfectly, like he'd been practicing it. Good to see you. My mouth went dry, because that wasn't coincidence. That was confirmation. He wasn't watching our house. He was tracking our family. That night, my dad found something in his coat pocket. A strip of label maker tape. No handwriting, just printed text. Tell your son to stop testing patterns. My dad stared at it for a long time, because it wasn't a threat. It was a correction, a reminder that we were being watched closely enough to be managed. We cut the trip short. When we got home, the street looked exactly the same. Same driveways, same polite waves. Graham's house looked normal, and that's what made it worse. The next morning, my dad noticed our doorbell camera had shifted upward slightly. Just a few degrees, enough to catch the second-floor window more clearly. My window. That wasn't random. That was refinement. The kind of adjustment you make when you're perfecting a view. People always ask, why didn't you confront him? Because confrontation assumes the other person is pretending. Graham wasn't pretending. He lived there. He belonged there. And if you accuse the wrong neighbor, you become the paranoid family. But if you accuse the right one, you're telling a person who knows your routines that you're awake now, that you're watching back. And most people would rather live with uncertainty than trigger a certainty they can't control. Fear isn't what makes people vulnerable. Routine is. Familiarity is. The need to believe normal so you can keep living. Because when you feel watched for long enough, you stop reacting. You stop questioning. You stop checking. And that's exactly what someone like Graham counts on. Because if he's never a stranger, you'll keep opening the door. Graham still lives 2 houses down, and some nights, when the street is quiet, I'll look out at that second-floor window and see his porch light click on, just once. Like a signal, like he's checking if I'm home, like he always has, like he never stopped. And if you're listening to this and thinking, this can't be real, that's what we told ourselves too, for years. Because the scariest predator isn't the one in the shadows. It's the one you recognize enough to wave at.